Everybody, welcome in. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. Tonight, Tanisha is going to show us this cute little Halloween canvas. I see we've got a bunch of people painting along. So if you have any questions, feel free to use the chat and I'll try and answer them and kind of pass them off to Tanisha as we go along here. But I'll let Tanisha take it away.
Hello, everybody. Like they said, my name is Tanisha, and I am a content creator here at Plaid. And today we are going to make this really cute painting using FolkArt paints. So this painting, and I'm sure you guys got all your paints, we're going to use our glitters and our black last, so you can put those off to the side. We're going to use our white first. So let's look at our painting and kind of plan out what we're going to do. If you want to go ahead and switch to overhead, now is the good time for that. So unfortunately, all I have is a printout. I don't have the real painting in front of me because someone liked it so much they took it home and hung it on their wall, I think. So I won't be able to show you the cute glitter on that, but you will see it when we do the paint. So as you can see, it's pretty simple, but the way we paint it does give an indication of highlights and lowlights. So you're getting a bit of a three-dimensional look on these pieces of candy. And I'm going to show you how to do that. And it's really going to pop on this black canvas. So if you didn't have a black canvas, if your canvas is white, go ahead and base coat your canvas black. But for now, I'm going to assume that you all have a black canvas. And I do apologize, I have a little bit of a frog in my throat, so bear with me. So like I said, we're going to start with white. I'm just going to rearrange my setting here a little bit. And this is the FolkArt Matte Titanium White, and this was on your list. Whoop. Give that a little shake. So yeah, like Dylan said, feel free to ask questions and give comments in the chat. We love hearing from you guys. And I love seeing you all paint along. It's really, really fun to see you guys. Often when we do our little, our crafting on camera, we do not get to see our audience. So it's really nice to do it with Michael's because I get to see you guys. All right, so I don't know if I had a pencil on the list, but I am going to use a pencil to quickly sketch this out. We're not using a pattern, so we're just going to hand draw this. And these are all really simple shapes, so I think it's going to be okay. And of course, if it doesn't look exactly right, it's no big deal. It's a pencil. We will get it going. And don't worry about marks on your black canvas. That's what we have our black paint for. We're going to go over that in the end and cover up anything unslightly and clean up our lines. So as you can see, I'm just penciling in my big candy corn here. So that's just a rounded triangle shape. Okay, so just put a big triangle right there. And then I'm just going to take this line here. We're just going to round that out. We're just going to make a rounded line there. And then again, down here. And then we have our three. Oh, you know what? I bet you can't really see that very well. There you go. So you can see I'm just sketching that out. So if you have this pulled up on your phone or your tablet, that might help, but you can just look at the screen as well. I'll try to go a little bit slow so we can all keep up. Next, I'm going to work on this shape. So this is a big giant lollipop. So I'm just going to kind of start creating a circle that falls off of our page here. And then my stick almost follows the same path as the candy corn. So really you're just looking at the shapes and seeing where they relate to your other shapes. You're just going to sketch those in. You can see I've just got my circle, my stick, and my triangle so far. I'm going to move on to this candy corn here. Looks like it's a little bit off my edge there. And again, it's just a triangle. Need to make it a little bit bigger. And when we start painting too, you can always adjust your size and shape and then go back over it with that black paint. And you can also erase too on canvas. Black canvas actually is more forgiving than white canvas with erasing, because on white you often get smudges, but on black it just looks black. All right, so I've got my second candy corn in. Let me show that. And you could also, if you know what I should have done for the people at home, I should have used a piece of white chalk, or actually, you know what, I do have a little piece of chalk here. And if your seeing is impaired at all, you can use white chalk or even a white colored pencil. Or any kind of light color will do. So I'll just go over those real quick so you can see them better. And you can see I'm not being super exact. I'm really just kind of feeling those out. All right, and then we've got our last candy corn over here, which we're just seeing the tip of. Oh, well, there I go again, using my pencil instead of my chalk. Okay. All right, so now I've got my 3 candy corns and my big lollipop. Those are our 3 biggest items. And now we're going to fit in our other stuff. So I think I brought out my lollipop stick a little too far, so I'm going to shorten that. And then we've got this one big piece of hard candy here. And the way you do hard candy is it's with a wrapper, is just a circle, and then it's almost like 2 triangles coming out of there. And that's your wrapper. And then with the paint, we'll make that look better. Now I'm going to do my long candy here, which is, let's see, it's sort of in this direction. And again, we've just got those little triangles for the wrappers. All right, I'm going to throw in some gumballs and jelly beans. And so really for this part, you don't necessarily have to follow perfectly. You can kind of fill in your space where you need fillers. And for a jelly bean, oh, what shape is a jelly bean? A jelly bean is sort of like a rounded moon. Rounded half moon, I guess. A little kidney shape. All right, am I filled in there? I think that's good. Is everybody following along?
Yeah, I think so.
All right.
And I wanted to talk about something somebody brought up in the group that was a really good question. You know, these pictures, you don't always get to see the final painting during the class, you know, if you're taking the class other than on the screen here. And just remember that we do post these on our Instagram and our Facebook pages, the pictures of the project. So even though they disappear off Michael's website, you can always find them on our Instagram and Facebook if you want to, you know, go back later and look at them a little bit closer, because we can only do so much with Zoom here tonight. So Just want to mention that.
Yeah. And speaking of social media, when you guys are done with your pictures, if you are interested in posting it and letting us see them, you can find us pretty much everywhere, hashtag plaid crafts. And so you just tag us, and we love seeing what you guys make. All right, so I'm going to move on. I've got my candy here. And what I'm going to do with my white, since we're working on black and we have a lot of light colored paints, I'm actually going to fill these in with white as an underpainting first. So I'm going to base coat my shapes in white, and then we're going to use our paint on top. And that will basically allow us to not need as many coats as we might need otherwise. So this is a way to kind of hurry up the process a little bit, make it a little bit easier for you, and maybe use less product as well. So I'm just using, let's see, this is an 8 flat, and you will notice that I use a lot of flats. Flats are my favorites. And I'm just going to quickly fill in these shapes. And again, this is just what's called an underpainting. Doesn't have to be perfect. And we will, we'll go over these with color and fix up our lines with black in the end. So really, you can just think of this as a first coat. And a lot of the colors that I'm using today are considered, oh boy, I should have thought before I started talking, are considered what? What are these nice light colors called? Pastels, that's what it is. And we actually, I know we're here on Michael's, but we actually do sell a set. If you're ever over shopping with just us, we do sell a set of all of our pastels together, which is a nice little set. So a lot of these are pastels, and then we've got some fun glitter to work on at the end to give that extra pop. And our glitters, if you've never used our glitters before, are pretty incredible.
They are. Glitterific is a great formula.
It really is. Especially if you're used to only using loose glitter. What a world of difference it is to paint with glitter instead of putting glitter on top of paint.
Right.
Huge difference. So I think you guys, if you haven't used that yet, you will enjoy that at the end. And we do have some really gorgeous formulas for that, especially for the holidays coming up. Some really, really pretty combinations of colors and shine. Really nice. And this should be the easy part of the painting. Don't fuss with this part too much. I'm just going in and filling in my biggest pieces, and then I'll go back with a smaller brush and do the smaller chunks. If you want to let us know in the chat what you're planning on doing for Halloween. Here at the studio, we are, as a big group dress up, we are all dressing up as Harry Potter professors.
Mm-hmm.
Has to be a professor. So I'm going to be McGonagall. And Dylan, remind me who you're going to be.
Gilderoy Lockhart.
That's right.
It's going to be fun. Last year we did the Addams Family. That was great.
which I missed. So I'm very excited to be here this year. I'm trying to remember what my kids are going to be. I should know this. Gosh. Oh, my youngest is going to be an anime character named Anya. I'm not really familiar with her, but I know she has a pink wig, which is cute. And then my oldest, gosh, I cannot remember. Oh, I think she's the Grim Reaper.
We just had somebody comment they're going to be the Sanderson sisters from
Oh, cute.
Focus. We love. I'm sure that's a very popular costume this year. Some great people to be.
Yeah. It's a good one. I haven't watched the new one yet. Have you, Dylan?
Great. I love it. It was a fave.
I need to get on that. I didn't watch, I haven't done any Halloween movies this year yet.
I got it. There's still time.
There is still time. Well, especially since Halloween's on a Monday this year.
That is true. You have the whole weekend.
Watch the whole weekend.
And then on to Christmas. That's what we're doing in Plaid.
Yeah.
On to the holiday season.
Yeah. We don't get to celebrate for long around here. On to the next one. All right. So I am done with my little underpainting here. And I'm just going to give this a really quick blast with my hair dryer. All right. What cute color should we start with? Why don't we start with the orange, white, and yellow for these candy corns. And so those colors are Tangerine, Daybreak, and then we're going to continue with our titanium white. All right. Again, I'm just going to use a flat. This is a 10 flat. I'm going to go in with my orange, or my tangerine, and we lost our little guidelines, so I'm just going to look up at my picture there. Make that nice curved line. Bring that down. We're going down to about, I think the orange part on a candy corn is the biggest part. And you can see, because we have that white underneath, this color does not look like it'll even need a second coat on here. Nice and thick, good coverage. Just going to pull that down. And then keep our rounded lines so that it looks like it has some sort of dimension. And you can try to match your curve on the top and bottom. Not the easiest thing to do with a paintbrush, but we can try. I'm gonna go over to my second one and do the orange. Whoops. Throwing paint. Let's see, I'm just going to take a dry brush and see if I can scoop up that little mistake, and then we'll cover that in black when we get to it. And I'm keeping my canvas in one place so that you guys can follow along. But when you are painting, I highly recommend moving your canvas around instead of forcing your body and your arm and your hand to paint in awkward directions, which I am used to because I do live streams like this. But for you guys, you should absolutely feel free to move your canvas around so that you can get the best painting angle. Again, we'll clean this up afterwards. I'm not worried yet. Okay, moving on to the third. Again, I'm just going to make a curved line. We also love to hear where you guys are watching from, where you're painting from. So if you want to put in the chat what state you're in, or if you're in another country, what country you're in. I am painting in Atlanta, Georgia. That's where we are at Plaid. And the weather here has been very nice. It was freezing last week, and now it's back in the 70s. Kind of strange weather.
Idaho, Minnesota.
Oh, wow.
Connecticut.
Connecticut. That's close to my home. I'm originally from New Hampshire.
Arizona, Virginia. We got a good spread tonight.
All right. All right, I'm going to pick up some of my Daybreak, which is that pale yellow. And I'm going to go ahead and fill in these bottom half, or bottom third, I guess. Get my fractions right. Candy corns are coming to life. You know, I guess a candy that I could have put on here is like gummy worms. Little worm shapes would have been fun. And the fun thing about this painting too is that you can really easily take this idea and do a Christmas version. You can put little peppermints, candy canes, What's another Christmas candy?
Could do some little bonbons.
Little bonbons.
Yeah.
Little cherry cordials.
There you go. Gingerbread men we have in the comments.
Oh yes, gingerbread.
Example.
That's a good idea.
Mhm.
Gumdrops. Maybe a Christmas one is what I should do next. Sorry, I did not say out loud. I'm just putting a second coat of white on the tips here.
And then what size brush are you using there, Tanisha?
This is a 10 flat.
There you go.
And I am very partial to flats. If you're more comfortable using something else, you know, I think the more you work and the more you practice, you kind of just become partial to certain things. I don't know what my deal is with flats. I feel like I can just paint anything with a flat. I don't know why. All right, so we got our first coat's looking good on our candy corns. Let's go with our big pink lollipop. So this is pink frosting, really classic pink color. Sort of a pink bubble gum almost. And because this is a big guy, I'm going to stick with, this is a 1/2 inch flat. And I'm just going to load my brush, get a good amount of paint. We have a good amount of surface to cover. Nice and smooth. And I'm just dragging that brush towards me and letting the edge of the brush hit the edge of the lollipop to create that fairly smooth line if you just keep pulling. That was an easy fill. All right. And then that stick for the lollipop is white. So I'm just going to put a second coat of white on there as we go. And I'm just going to take my loaded brush and pull towards me. And just let the brush do the work. All right, and since we have our pink out, let's go ahead and do the rest of the pinks. Actually, let me get a smaller brush. I'm gonna go with my 6 flat. So that looks like that. And we're gonna pick up some more of that pink, which was pink frosting pink. And let's see. Oops, I missed a ball. That's all right, we'll do this one. And down here we have one. And I'm going to go ahead and color in this longer candy with this pink. And it looks lighter on here because we actually go over it in a mixed pink and white. So we will do that when we start doing our darks and lights for our color. Sorry, for our lights. Oh gosh, shadows and highlights. Couldn't get that out. And really, we're just coloring stuff in at this point. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and make this big one pink because I missed a little. I think I made my candies too big over here. But if you followed the drawing correctly, unlike me, you are welcome to follow that color pattern there. All right, so we've got our pinks laid down. Now let's do our light. This is Minted Aqua. This is going to be this hard candy up here. This is a really pretty color. I love this color. It's very vintage vibes. All right, and I'm going to use my 10 flat again. Load up my brush. And I'm just going to use that brush. I'm going to pull it around in a circle, half circle, load it back up. And pull it again for my second half circle. And it is filled in. Now we're just going to fill in these triangles. Okay. And then I've got a couple little jelly beans, so I'm going to go with a smaller brush. This one's a 6 flat. And I believe this guy. These little jelly beans are really easy to color in. It's really just almost a single swipe there. Oops. And then what other one? This one. And then I think these ones are that darker teal. So next we have Dutch Aqua. And I believe on the list, I wrote it as just Aqua, but when I was looking through our store, and it could be a difference of maybe an old bottle, but the one that I have is called Dutch Aqua, just so we're clear. And this is a nicer, a nice, little bit darker than our minted color. When you've got a little too much paint on your brush, you can just offload it onto your paper plate or whatever you're using for your paints. You just wipe that off a little bit. All right, that's purple. We've got one more darker one up here. All right, and then let's see. We're going to do our lighter purple. This is Lilac Ice. We're going to get our last few candies, and then we'll move on to some details. All right, that's all the candies. And I can see, so if you look at your painting now, you can see that some colors may need a second coat. You may see a little bit see-through or see a little bit through them a little bit. So I'm just going to hit this with a my hair dryer. All right. And then I'm just going to quickly throw on a second coat of paint, coat of pink. And then I'm going to also do our yellow. Those are the two colors I think could use a little more love. See some people using their hair dryers. It's always good to have a hair dryer around. That is a trick I did not know until I started working here. And everyone used hair dryers, and I was like, oh, that's genius. Don't have to wait. All right. All right, so I'm going to hold this up and show you guys. And you can see we're still seeing our chalk lines around that, and that's fine because we're going to go around that in black. So it's looking a little messy right now, and that is a-okay. All right, so let's think about some details here. So we want to do 3 things: patterns, shadows, and highlights. Okay, so here we have pattern, polka dots, some stripes. And then hopefully you guys can see, and you should be able to see this on the website as well. We have things like these lines here that show shadow and highlight, shadow, highlight. And that's really what gives your jelly beans and stuff dimension. And it's much easier than it looks. So for most of this stuff, we're going to be using smaller brushes. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off all the smaller brushes that I used. And to do our dots, we'll probably need a round brush. So I'm going to dig a little bit and find the brushes I need ahead of time. And you can also use, it's really fun too to like create polka dots and stripes and things with other kinds of tools instead of brushes. You can use, actually, I can show you that. You can use the end of your paintbrush, the dull end here, for polka dots. And they come out really well. So I can show you that. So let's do that first. I'm going to use, this is just my, let's see, my 8 flat. And I'm going to pick up, oh, actually, I don't have that on my plate. I'm going to pick up this darker purple, which is light lavender. We were using lavender ice, I believe. So here's the light lavender, a little bit darker. And I'm just going to dot my paintbrush into that, the end of my paintbrush, not the bristle part, the end, into my purple paint there. And I am going to use that to create polka dots. So hopefully you guys can see that. Let me. But it actually works really well as a little painting tool. All right, so now we have that darker purple out. Let's go ahead and use that to create our swirl in our lollipop. So here I'm using a 6 flat. You could just as easily use a round brush for this, or a liner brush. And I'm going to, you kind of have to fudge this a little bit because we don't actually have the full circle. Excuse me. I'm going to try to keep it really simple. I'm just pulling that brush, letting the brush do the work. And again, if it's easier for you to move your canvas, please feel free to do that. All right. So far that's what it looks like. I've got my swirl in there. And once we put the highlights and shadows in there, you'll be able to see it better. So let's start doing that. Let's start doing our highlights and shadows. We'll do it on our candy corns. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my orange, because I still want it to be the same color as my candy corn, right? So I'm going to take some of my orange, a little bit of yellow, and a good bit of white. And we're going to mix that up. And what you can do is when it's on your brush, you can hold it up to where you're trying to highlight. And when I'm looking at this, I can see that I made it a little too light. That's almost too strong of a highlight. So I'm going to pick up a little more of my orange. And just create a custom color that looks like a highlight. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to touch it on here. You know what, actually I want to use a little bit of a smaller brush. I'm going to switch to a 6 flat, pick up that custom color I just made. And I'm going to bring it down through my orange, just like that. And that's sort of a cartoony way of doing a highlight. And we are also going to do that in the yellow, although we don't have too much to highlight down here because it's the very end of our corn. So I'm going to take a tiny spot of yellow, a good glob of white. Create that color and then just drag my brush through. Perfect. And the white is, you know, you can't get whiter than white. So we're just going to leave that as is. But we will work on the shadow on that one. All right. So using that same paint, since we already have it mixed up, right? We're going to go ahead and put our highlights on our other candy corns. So because of the direction of these, we're going to put the highlight on the top here. And again, I just loaded my brush. I'm just going to create a straight line like so. And one more time on the other candy corn. Okay, now we have 3 highlighted orange candy corns. pick up that yellow that I made, the really light yellow. And continue that highlight like so. And now we're going to do the same thing for the shadow, except we're going to make it darker instead of making it lighter. So it's a little risky to use black because these are such light colors, but I'm going to use the tiniest little spot of black, okay? And a big old thing of orange. I can already tell that was too much black and it was just a tiniest spot. There we go. That's looking a little bit better. Hold it up. It's looking pretty good. All right, let's see. Let's see how it looks. We just create a line on the opposite side, just like that. And again, using that same paint that we just created. All right. Now we have to do the same thing for yellow. So we're going to do big glob of yellow, tiniest speck of black. Black goes a long way when you're painting. And because of the pigments in paint, you'll notice that sometimes black can look a little bit green when you're dealing with mixing. Sometimes it can have a green hue, sometimes it can have a blue hue. So if you want to get really technical, you can counteract that. But today we're just going to deal with it. So I don't know if I made my yellow quite dark enough. Oh, we don't have yellow anywhere else. All right. Okay, so our candy corns are starting to look dimensional, which is great. Now let's put some shadows and highlights on our big hard candy here. And for this, I'm going to use a smaller brush. I'm actually going to pull out a liner brush. This is a #1 liner. And I'm going to go into that darker aqua. And I'm going, because this is originally base coated with our lighter aqua. This is the minted aqua. So I'm going in with Dutch aqua to create the shadow, which I'm just going to put a rounded line here on the bottom to create that shadow. Just like that. And then I'm going to sort of cuff these wrappers where they gather. So I'm gonna give them a little, kind of like a little ponytail. Keep my lines as rounded as possible. And then I'm going to just use my brush and pull out to create those creases. And you can do just 3 or more. Kind of depends on what size you ended up with. There we go. And then I also have some stripes on the candy wrapper. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'm going to try to do it rounded out, sort of like a basketball. All right. Let's see, where else in the painting? We have this minted aqua that we can do our darker paint as a shadow. So I've got this jelly bean here. So I'm just going to put a curved line on the bottom. And I've got this jelly bean over here. Again. All right. Excuse me. All right, now let's go back, same brush, and pick up some of that lighter aqua. And now we can go into these darker pieces of candy and add the highlights. So we're just using sort of the same colors over and over again to create highlights and lowlights. So for these rounded ones, very simple. You just create a curved line on the top to create your highlight. Let's see. Jelly beans are coming to life. Okay. And now on the colors that are the light version, right? So we have this lighter aqua. So on those, to create the highlight, we're actually just going to use white. And you can mix a color, but I think these are light enough to just use a white. So let's try that. Just use a white. Oops. I'm going to start a new plate here. New palette. All right. Yeah, I think that white works just perfectly in that minted aqua to create that highlight. And let's do the same on our little candy here. So I'm just gonna pull a line to create highlight. If you want to get fancy, you can create highlights on your little wrappers as well. Let's see. And I believe I used the darker purple. So I'm going to get some of the lighter purple, which is Lilac Ice. I'm going to switch back to my smallest flat brush, which is a number 2. Let's see, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that is the light color. Oh, I am wrong. Okay, so we will use white on this one, on these purples. And I'm just going to use that same brush. If anything, it'll be good to have some of that purple in there. And again, we're still just creating highlights, just going around and putting little pops. Then on our lollipop, this one is a little bit funny because we want it to have highlights, but I'm assuming like the kind of lollipops that you get when you're a kid at a fair, that they're kind of like rolled up. So they have indentations, if that makes sense. So I'm going to kind of sketch out here individual highlights in those indentations. I'm going to go back over it a little bit with some pink to kind of round those out. If that makes sense. I'm kind of blending out the highlight so that it looks a little more rounded. And then because we don't have something darker than that dark purple, I am going to use a little bit of black. Again, just the teeniest, tiniest bit. And a lot of purple. And that makes a sort of purpley gray. And we're going to use that to create our shadows. So this is really only the kind of complicated one. And I'm not even sure while I'm painting it if I'm really getting the grooves the way I think they should be. But we're just going to keep painting and make it cute. All right, so hopefully everybody's little candies are starting to pop off the page a little bit with their highlights. And then we do have to go back in. Actually, let's use this purpley gray that we just made and
Tanisha,
use
will you
that.
hold your canvas up so everybody can see really
Sure.
quick. Perfect.
So you can see those highlights and shadows. They're not complicated. They're really just single lines. But it begins to give it a more of a shape. So I'm going to use that purpley gray that we just created, and I'm actually going to use that on the blue candies as a shadow. So I think that will work. And then it will also work on our purple candies. It's almost not dark enough. There we go. Added a little more black to that. Okay, now I think we're ready to clean this up. And then at that point, you can really see where you need to go back in and fix up any details. I'm sorry, I am losing my voice. So I'm going to get some of this black. This is our pure black that we've been using. And I'm going to take, for now, I'm going to go with my 10 flat. And I'm going to load that up. And I'm just going to, again, like I've been saying, you're just going to pull and let those bristles do the work for you, okay? So I am going to move my canvas around a little bit for this one. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm going to outline all my candies. So now we're covering up that chalk. We're covering up any mistakes, any places where you went out, or maybe your circle went a little wonky, or you got a little bit of paint on the side, which you saw me do a few times. We're just going to cover those up now. And all these lines will start to pop against that black. And it'll look really nice. And also these black canvases can get pretty dirty just in shipping and handling. So it's also nice to fix up any smudges you may have from that. I know I did not start with a perfect canvas. And I'm using a big brush right now, so I'm just doing sort of the big areas, and then I'll go back in and touch up even more with a smaller brush. But for now, I'm getting those big lines. You can also use this time to fix up some of your shapes. Like this jelly bean's looking a little like a banana, so I'm kind of shortening him a little bit, rounding him back out. We don't need any bananas in our Halloween. You can see I'm just turning my canvas, which I hope isn't too confusing for you guys. But I'm just turning it around, and so that I'm working with my brush instead of against it. I find this to be one of the more satisfying parts about painting, is cleaning up your lines near the end. But maybe that just means I'm a messy painter, which I will admit. I am not a perfectionist. We are getting there. feel like we should have Halloween music playing. Oh, I've got another banana jelly bean here. Let's fix him up. All right, just a couple more swipes here. All right, is everybody's painting starting to look real good?
Yeah, we have one person already holding it up to show us. So
Oh, good. You beat me. Probably because you didn't use chalk. Chalk's got to cover it all up. But I think I am almost done. It's not perfect, but it's cute. Let me just hit it with my blow dryer real quick. Okay, now last but not least, guys, we want to do a little bit of glitter. So this is the cutesy part. So I've got 4 glitters here. I have Glitterific in yellow neon. Okay. And then I've got Glitterific Fine in Aqua. And then I have Glitterific Fine in purple. And Glitterific Pop in Beach Vibe. Now I'm going to bring back my reference, and our biggest glitter is going to go on our candy corns. So I'm going to use this neon yellow, and I'm going to go back to my 10 flat, which is dirty. Let's clean that off. We don't want anything to dull our glitter. All right, and if you can see, I want to show you this glitter on the plate. You can see how pretty that is. And that's straight out of the bottle. So I'm just going to scoop a little bit of that up. And you can see how easy it spreads. It spreads just like paint. And I'm just going to put that right on top. You can go right over your highlights and shadows. You'll be able to see them underneath that because this is in a clear acrylic base. It's basically holographic pieces in a clear base. That one is. I'll show you a different type as well. And if you want these to be ultra glittery, you can let this dry and do a second coat. I'm just going to show you one coat on these. I'm sorry. Excuse me. All right, and then this Glitterific Fine in purple. Whoops. So this is also in a clear base, but the glitter is much finer. So you can see the yellow is bigger holographic chunks, and the Glitterific Fine is tiny, beautiful little pieces. So I'm going to go with a smaller brush for this one. I'm going to do my 6 flat. I'm going to scoop that up, and I'm going to go around the purple parts in our lollipop. Now, of course, you don't have to do glitter. You could stop where you are. But I do think this makes it, there's something about glitter that screams holidays, doesn't it?
It is very festive.
Yeah, festive. And it's not loose, so take a chance, use some glitter. I promise the cleanup's easier. All right, and then we can use the same one to put a little bit over our purple, our little purple round candies. Let's see. That's all of them. Oh, you know what? I never put a highlight and shadow on this long candy, so you can do that as well. When you're done with your glitter, go ahead and put your highlight and low light on that guy. What's next? The blue, the Aqua, Glitterific Fine Aqua. So this is the same as the purple, but in a different color. It's very pretty in person. We're going to throw that on some of our jelly beans. This little round guy down here. Who else has one? Maybe this jelly bean up here. Okay. And now I'm going to show you this bigger Glitterific pop. And so this one, I saved this one for last because I didn't want it to scare you off. It's got a milky base to it, but it dries clear. So when you see it, you see it looks creamy, but that will dry clear, and it has big pieces of glitter in it. It's really, really pretty. So we're going to take that, and I'm actually going to put it, let's see, what should we put it on? I didn't use this one in my original. Oh, maybe I did. Maybe that's what those polka dots are. So let's put it on this jelly bean here. We'll get some big polka dots on there. Can you see that polka dot? See, they're all different shapes and sizes in the Glitterific pop, which is really fun. So we'll do that one, and we'll do this one up here, this little jelly bean. Put some polka dots on him. And then even though we did a fine on this, let's add some dots to this guy, just for fun. All right, and you guys, I think that is it. You know, you can keep messing around with it. And like I said, we forgot to do our highlight and low light on that long candy, so go ahead and do that. And you can see once you clean up those lines, it really starts to pop, and that glitter, when it's dry, is going to really, really shine. So I see some people are still working, but if you want to show us your project, please do that. We would love to see them. And thank you guys so much for coming out and listening to me talk about this cute little spooky candy painting.
All right. Thank you guys so much. Remember to hashtag Make It With Michaels and Plaid Crafts so that we can see your paintings later on. And just a reminder that this recording will be up on the Michaels YouTube channel in about 24 hours. And if you need to see the painting again, check out our Instagram or Facebook channels and you'll be able to see the full picture. So until next time, we'll see you guys later.
Thank you so much.
Bye, guys.